So why you think the real estate agent is more important for buying or selling the property? Why do they need to get a real estate agent? Why you suggest that?
Given that it's like going to a mechanic to get heart surgery instead of going to a heart surgeon. You want to go to the professional that does this every day. If you have a friend or family member and they sold 2 homes a year,
For commercial property, you don't think, you just think about the business.
numbers, location, demographics, how many people are here, you know, how you want to serve people, what stores you want there for that area.
You've been helping a lot of people to find their perfect homes. So since how long you've been doing this?
Initially, I got into real estate in 2021,
Okay.
which was a very interesting time to get into the field due to the low interest rates, low inventory, and a lot of fast-paced moving parts in the real estate industry.
So as a buyer, what do you suggest that what is the top three things which buyer should make sure before buying the house?
Get a quality realtor that you trust, has good reviews, and has multiple references from people you.
How important part does the credit report perform while you're buying the house?
In America, it's very important to the process because that's how they will say, first of all, yes or no, we could loan you money. Second of all, what your interest rate's going to be. Definitely confirm all this with a lender, but from my conversations with lenders, that's usually the biggest things.
So usually how you touch base with your client?
Normally I would try to, I'm big on texting. I like things in writing. It's easy to reference. It's a check-in. It's a friendly check-in. It's not like call, answer, call me back.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Ambitalk, where we dive deep into people passions and professions. I'm your host, Kish Smith, and today we have a Livio from the Remax First Realty who's gonna give us a brief insight about buying and selling the properties. What we need to make sure before you're buying your dream house, or what you need to make sure when you're selling the property. Today we're gonna learn that all with Livio. So please help me welcome Livio from the Remax First Realty. And before that, make sure to like, subscribe, and press the bell icon to get all the updates about us. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Livio from the Remax First Realty, who has been helping a lot of people to find their perfect house. Hey Livio,
Hi, Chris. Pleasure to be here with you.
and how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for asking. You've been helping a lot of people to find their perfect homes. So since how long you've been doing this?
Initially, I got into real estate in 2021,
Okay.
which was a very interesting time to get into the field due to the low interest rates, low inventory, and a lot of fast-paced moving parts in the real estate industry, where houses came off the market in a weekend versus 6 months. So it was very big learning curve, but it helps you learn quicker because experience comes with transactions. And
Right.
if you could compress 25 transactions into a year, that's definitely helps with your track record and clients that you could service and help them find a home.
Right. So what inspired you to get into real estate right after COVID? Because I mean, 2021, that was the time we ended up having COVID, and that time I know like there was a lot of real estate properties were there in the market for sale. So what inspired you to right after COVID to jump into the real estate?
So I was initially a mechanic at BMW prior. I love the brand, I love the field, but I was looking for something different, a little more entrepreneurial. And that's where sales came in, especially real estate. I've been an investor since 2017. So I do have some properties and I wanted to be able to basically hunt my own deals, help people, and create financial freedom for myself is the biggest driving factor, I'd say, for the most part.
Right. So started from 2021. How many properties you have sold until now? Just approx.
Approximately, I would say between 50 and 75 properties, including referrals where I've connected someone with an agent out of state or been part of a transaction, had a partner on a transaction. But a lot of people that I've helped, even if we didn't close a transaction, I'm sure I've helped them, whether it's, even holding open a door for someone throughout the transaction, made them feel better, made them laugh.
Right.
Even if we didn't, close
You just
the
have
deal,
to be
it still
frankly
helps.
with them when
Exactly.
you are dealing with them.
Yes.
Right. So how would you describe the current scenario of real estate, and especially in New Jersey?
New Jersey as a whole, I think it's unique because there's the Northeast, part of the country that's a very big financial hub, and people want to live near where they work. One thing that remote office visits also now has changed the industry where people who used to work in New York don't have to go there anymore. So they might be working from home and they don't have to be in the city. So during COVID, low interest rates, low inventory, a big driving force to get more space has a recipe for what we saw in a already low inventory market
Right.
where stuff was flying off the shelf in a weekend. And
But I'm sure, back in 2021, when you started doing real estate, and until right now, I would say. So there's a huge difference because I know back in the days, people were just buying home like crazy, whatever the asking price, they were ready to pay more than that. But now, is the same scenario still in the market, or now it just dropped down?
it depends. If your house is desirable, for most people buying single family homes, even condos or townhouses, most people have families. That's the society we live in. So people want houses that are near good schools. They're considering the schooling system for their kids. They probably want to be on a dead end or cul-de-sac so their kids, safety. They probably want to have sidewalks. So anything in good school districts, a bigger house, 3 or more bedrooms, it's really going to fly off the shelf depending on the location. That's the key factor is location in this market.
Especially in Jersey, which locations do you think that it has like crazy market still, like back in the days?
Super competitive anywhere in Middlesex County, Union County, parts of Mercer, and Monmouth County especially. Ocean County is starting to get that flow for people that, they might have a budget up to 500, 550, and they want that single family house that might be a little more turnkey than they could get here in Middlesex County. And that's where they start going down more south or even towards the shore. But every area has its perks. Usually vicinity to a city has a lot of value driven. And it's just what the client's looking for.
So what do you think? What trends should buyer or investor should be keeping their mind for, like if they're planning to buy the next property within future, like 6 to 12 months?
First thing is link up with the best realtor and someone who's active in the market. That's all they do, and their communication is key. If someone's not talking to you, they're probably not working for you. So you want to get that touch and feel at least once every quarter. If you're saying, hey, I'm a year out, once a quarter, once every couple weeks. If something in my profession, if something reminds me of someone, I might give them a call or send them a text or say, hey, happy birthday, try to log that.
Right.
And just keep in touch.
And you do this full time, right? I mean,
Yes.
This is your full time thing.
Yes.
So I'm sure you must be helping a lot of clients every single day.
Yeah, all different walks of life. In regards to investors and buyers, main trends you want to be looking for is if you have some sort of tax record access, try to see if you could get mortgages on a property, see what people owe. Any absentee owners where it might be a landlord. That could be someone to target because a lot of people bought investment properties in 21. They might be trying to offload them. It might have been the first time they tried it, didn't work out. Now they're trying to cash out and either just break even or get rid of the property, make a profit, and they realize it wasn't for them. One other thing I really want to touch on is condos and HOAs. Ever since that collapse in Florida, there's a new law that's been passed in New Jersey about condos and HOAs, how they have a reserve study done. And if that reserve study is not up to par, or if, for instance, you call the HOA and you say, hey, has a reserve study been done? And they said, what's that? They haven't done it. And that's actually the surplus of money that is needed to check the foundation and the structure of the building so that it has an integrity check. Because what happened in Florida was that got brushed under the rug. Maybe they ran out of money, never did it. Regardless, it was the same result. Unfortunately, people passed away because of negligence and a building collapse.
Oh.
And so that's what everyone's trying to avoid now. So if you are selling a condo or townhouse or buying one, that's definitely something to consider. When selling, you want to know so you could promote that. And also you want to know so that you, as a seller, you want to know what to expect. Where if someone says, hey, your reserve study was never done, it'd rather not be a surprise than a surprise when it comes time to sell. Because at that point, you're ready to move.
Right. So the reserve study costs you separate money than the buying the house or selling the house?
No, the reserve study is just, so didn't mean to cut you off, but the reserve study is actually just a name of like the reserves of money that the HOA has to fund landscaping, to fund repairs on a condo building that the outside's deteriorating. They need to be able to fund that. They need to be able to fund if there's structural repairs needed. So anything that the HOA is in charge of, if it's not budgeted correctly, they cannot satisfy their needs, right?
Got you. So why you think the real estate agent is more important for buying or selling the property? Why do they need to get a real estate agent? Why you suggest that?
Given that it's like going to a mechanic to get heart surgery instead of going to a heart surgeon. You know, you want to go to the professional that does this every day. If you have a friend or family member and, you know, they sold 2 homes a year, I hope they sold 2 homes last week, because if they sold in the beginning of the year or at the end of last year or beginning of last year, things are different now. So they might be doing you a disservice. So there's always ways to work around, but the client's interest is always at heart.
Right. So, and also about the down payment when you're buying the property. So let's take an example. If you're buying the house, so there's a lot of people who thinks that, oh, they're first time home buyer, they just put 5% down. Or if they're second time home buyer, they'll put 20% down or maybe 10% down or more than that, whatever they have. So what would you suggest that what is important to put as a down payment, and how would you describe that?
Most important is do what's comfortable for you and that's feasible. But there's a lot of workarounds. You could tap into retirement accounts for cash. Usually purchasing a home, it's one of the allowments they allow for people to take out from their retirement fund early. You can get a gift from a friend or family member. You can take a HELOC out if you already have a property. You can do a bunch of different things. Borrow against some other investment accounts. There's multiple outs you can have to help that down payment. But the more down payment you put, the more appealing it looks in a multiple offer situation. So for example, you have 3 different offers, right? One's an FHA loan at 3.5%, one's a conventional at 10%, and one's a conventional at 20%. Okay. All the same price. In that case, the FHA has lower down payment, but also different guidelines that might be more invasive to the inspection process and might cause more delays in the closing. So a seller's going to know that if their listing agent knows that. Second is a conventional at 10%. Though it's better than the FHA, it's a little more down. It's still not superior to the 20%. And the reason that is that the down payment comes into loaning amounts, and you will also avoid PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. Mm-hmm. So as a buyer, if you could put down 20%, it's beneficial for the monthly payment too. So with those down payments, it's not the buyer against the seller in any transaction. It's a team going to a common goal. So if we see 20% down, the likelihood of this closing is much more than someone at 10 or 3.5%. Not that anyone's discriminating, but it's just the facts in front of you. Who is the most likely to close is how the seller chooses.
Understood. So whoever putting more down payment, seller will just go to choose with them.
If everything is the same and that's the only difference, that is a very powerful difference to have. Meaning price is the same, terms are the same, closing, but down payment is different. The down payment, more down payment's going to win every time.
Understood. So also, let's take an example. If I'm buying a first-time home buyer, as a first-time home buyer, I'm buying a house, and I do have money for 20% down payment, but I just want to put 5% down payment initially, just to get the house take a benefit of first-time home buyer. So once I do that, and what are the rest of money I have, which is 15% remaining. So once I close my house and during my first month, within 60 days, if I make the payment of that 15%, is it beneficial to me or no?
I would say best thing to do, buy a house with minimal down. Use that extra money you would have put down, let's say the extra 15%. So let's say it's a $500,000 house. Any single family is probably be around that range. So 20% down would be $100,000, right? Mm-hmm. So you take, instead of putting $100,000 down,
you just put $20,000 down.
Right, $20,000 down, get the deal to work, and that $80K you have, you spend that on high yields, return on investment renovations. And I say this because let's say you have something with an outdated kitchen, bathroom, those are your biggest pulls, a basement that's not finished. You take that money, finish the kitchen, finish the bathroom, finish the basement, instantly increase property value, refinance, get the PMI off, and now you have a different mortgage, a renovated house, and you don't have to pay anymore. And that's your mortgage. That, I think, is the best thing for anybody. But if you don't have the means of doing that, if you could use the money to buy down points in this market where the rates are high, that's something that could benefit you too. So it's all situational.
So which are the competitive terms beside the down payment and the offer?
In regards to, besides down payment offer price, most competitive things you could put in offer, or obviously if you can accommodate a closing that works for the seller first, if you can accommodate it when there's multiple offers. Mm-hmm. Again, if there's no multiple offers, leverage, negotiate by all means. But when there's multiple offers and you really want the house, you got to stick out. So accommodate a closing that works for the seller. It might not be the fastest. They might need 90 days. So if you can do it, give them the 90 days. If they need 30 days, hopefully your agent that's representing you tells you that and gives you all the facts in front of you. Second would be what's called some sort of verbiage about the appraisal. So basically homes in a competitive situation, you have, let's say, 10 offers on a house. It's listed at 500. You have offers from 475 all the way up to 550, but that asking price is 500. The seller wants to close and get his money. You could offer $1 million on a $500K house. If that doesn't appraise, he knows he's not going to get that. So that verbiage of guaranteeing the offer price is super competitive in a competitive market because the seller wants to net the most proceeds. First thing they see is price and then maybe terms after that or closing timeline. But the first thing to look at is price. Any seller looks at that. So that also things about the inspection. So I never recommend off the jump to, especially for your first time home buyer, to buy a home having an inspection but not being able to ask for anything. But if the house is newer built, within 10 years, a realtor like me, I try to go through the home and try to point out things that I've seen from inspectors and say like, hey, there's a brown spot in the ceiling. That's probably a water leak. Maybe that's something we might look into. Basically limit the surprises that might come up in inspection so that, yes, it'll be thoroughly checked by the inspector, but it's not a surprise because that's when people get flustered or frustrated.
Right. So sometimes I have seen like after passing all this thing and when it goes to inspection, so inspection guy, they take out like a lot of doubts that maybe there's like stain somewhere which we missed or something. This kind of when this kind of situation happens, how the client and how the real estate agent deals with it, like how the agent helps the client regarding that.
So if we could put into like perspective, so a real estate agent's basically the quarterback of the whole transaction. So if you have a good realtor, they're talking to everybody all the time to make sure everything's coordinated because you have a lot of moving parts. You have a lender, his team, you have an attorney, their team, you have an inspector, his team, and then you have an appraiser that comes from the lender, Correct. And there's all these moving parts and there's a timeline. So everything needs to be done diligently because people need to think too. It's not instantaneous. You're not that attorney's only client. You're not that inspector's only client. Correct. You're not that photographer's only client when you're listing a property. So you have to coordinate everything. And that's where it's key with communication. That's where it's key.
So actually, like how exactly realtor help the buyer? Because sometimes they get frustrated, like, oh, that is like we are almost about to close the house. Because inspection is the part where it's like we just happen before the closing, if I'm correct.
Yes.
So when at the last point, if something happens, so usually being a client, if it's me, I will get frustrated, like, oh, something went wrong. So now what I'm gonna do? So how you support the clients?
Right. So I like to obviously know the inspector prior. If I don't know them, that's fine, but I would definitely like to know them, ask them important questions to see if they're good at their job. And from there, we would go through the inspection report, me and the client, and we could get the inspector on the phone in a conference call. And I tell my clients, pick your top 5 to 8 items, if there are that many. If there's more, stick to your top 5 to 8, especially in a competitive bid situation. Because if you give them a laundry list of stuff, seller might turn to the next offer. And if you really want the house and you didn't mean to send that, the seller doesn't care. So that being said, I like to coach my buyers through and say, hey, pick out your top items and then let me know what they are. And I'll say, hey, you might have missed this. This is probably more important based on other findings I've had. Why do you think this is important? Correct. And see what they say. Maybe the paint color in this bedroom is super important to them. Okay. Is the seller going to change that in this market? Probably not. But if that's something you want to ask for, by all means. I'm just going to educate you on what is the likelihood of, again, closing the deal for what you're looking for.
Correct.
Basically.
So did it ever happen to you when everything is almost done, but after the inspection, the client back off that, you know what, because of this problem, it came out in the inspection. So now I will rethink about buying this house again.
Yes, I actually had a client. Usually it's major issues that might scare people. Again, it's being experienced in the field. Like we see houses that might have foundation issues, termites all day. Doesn't scare us. But someone who's buying their first house, for example, they're like, oh, I don't want that. No, the other house didn't have that.
Yeah.
And that's what they're looking for. So yes, it's happened, but it's something that could be talked through. Again, everyone has to be reasonable. If the buyer is being unreasonable about it and that's something they're animate about, I work for them. I'm not going to say, hey, you need to buy this house.
Correct.
It's not the last house. You'll be fine. But there are workarounds, and it's best to have all the facts in front of you. Get quotes from qualified contractors, usually 3 if you can. If you're time strapped, get 1 that sounds good and present it to the seller. As an agent representing buyers and sellers, I know both sides, so I know what's reasonable and what's not. And I'm going to approach the listing agent and say, hey, you need to talk to your seller. Anyone's going to ask for this. The foundation wall's caving in. The house might collapse. Like, anyone's going to ask for this stuff. Because if they say, no, I don't want it, someone else will buy it. Well, do you know that? No. But that's where you paint a picture for everyone to show where it's probably going to end up.
Right. So about the buyer side, if I'm a buyer, what would you think can help me to get the top dollar on my property?
As a seller?
As a seller.
As a seller. I would say top dollar, high yield renovations or return on investment. Lighting is super essential, and brightness. Most people don't like dark homes. I could say that.
Correct.
So anything like recessed lighting goes a long way. The little circular wafer lights, I would say put them in the common areas if you can. Put things on dimmers. Depersonalize, declutter. Definitely deep clean as much as you can. Make it smell fresh. Open the windows. Open the curtains. And just high yield renovation, like maybe not the cabinets in the kitchen, but do the countertops and a faucet. Change the fixtures in the bathroom to maybe a different color. Instead of the chrome or brass, change it to black.
Right.
You take old square tiles that are pink, you gloss them white, and you gloss the tub white, put black fixtures, and it goes a long way. Your bathroom rental costs you $1,000 to $2,000 versus $15, but the person buying it's a renovated bathroom for them. And painting. Painting is the biggest thing. Always paint before you sell. Unless it's the house is in disarray where painting won't solve any issues.
Right, but if you paint the house and if the buyer, sometimes it could be just fall in the opposite of you, because sometimes if you paint the house, which maybe the buyer is really interested to buy a house, or if you like the buyer is really interested to buy your house, but because of the color, maybe they're like, oh no, you know what, I'm not interested.
Right.
I mean, of course, like they can always get the house and they can repaint it. But sometimes, there's a lot of clients, they're just, they just painted the house. I don't want to repaint again. I don't want to put my work after paying all this money. So I'm just going to back off.
Understood. I'm glad you asked that. And that's where it's key to have a realtor that has seen things and knows what creates success. So if I'm a realtor, I'm going to say paint it neutral, paint it light. Don't paint it black, because that's going to make it darker. Correct. Especially if your house is not, on the bigger side, or it's a cozy home. You want bright. So a neutral, not bright white, something off white, something neutral that someone would come in, if they paint over it, it's not going to be a problem. No one's really going to nitpick the fact that you painted a house all white inside,
Yeah.
But if you painted all black, they'll be like,
That'll
it's
be a
way
lot
too
of
dark in here.
problems.
And that's all they saw.
Right.
And you want to create, when someone walks in, it feels like home. And especially trim. Trim is very essential to paint, because that's what really pops. And that's what takes the most beating in houses. Especially if you just had flooring done. Like I've seen houses get carpets removed. They put, let's say, baseboard, and they never caulked or painted.
That looks weird.
Right.
Weird.
It looks unfinished.
Right.
I'm buying 100% of a home. Not
So what your
70%.
most of the client prefer, to buying a carpet house, like the house with the carpet on, or just a wooden floor?
Carpet is a thing that I believe in the 40s, 50s, 60s, people got these hardwood floors put down and they would just carpet everything, encapsulate it. Nowadays, hard floors are the way to go. It's more for hypoallergenic. It doesn't hold smells or residues. It's easier to clean up. Like vinyl flooring is a big thing. It's cost effective, looks good, and it lasts, and it's waterproof, especially for basements. Carpet, it just holds odors and it needs to be cleaned. And once it gets stained, it's really hard to remove. Most clients that come into a house with carpet, they say it's clean, they'll live with it, but no one says, please put carpet in my house as of today.
Also about the commercial property, you also deal with commercial property too, right?
Partially, yes.
Yes. So is the process is the same to buy or sell the commercial property, or is it different than buying the house or selling the house?
It's a little different in especially how the loans work. Usually a commercial property, you need 30% down because it is a different liability. It's not a primary residence. So in that regard, it is different that way, but also how you purchase. It's an unemotional purchase versus you're buying a primary residence for your wife and kids.
Correct.
You want to like
For commercial property, you just think about the business.
numbers, location, demographics, how many people are here, how you want to serve people, what stores you want in there for that area. Like if you go, let's say, go to Alaska, you're not going to be selling, beachwear,
course.
So you want
Yeah.
stores that are relevant and that can pay you money as a landlord
Landlord.
as a commercial property.
Correct. So what do you think in Jersey right now? Which area is on the top pick for commercial property?
Area, anywhere near train stations, people from New York, anywhere in an urban district near a college, somewhere where there's always foot traffic, there's always overturn, and people are always out no matter what time of the day.
Right. So any specific area do you have in mind? Like which area, especially in Jersey, like Central Jersey, or people are buying more property, commercial property towards South Jersey or North Jersey?
I would say it's more populated and dense in the middle Central Jersey and North Jersey, so there's more people there. If you go down south, you might not get the same return, but the price is going to reflect that too.
Correct.
So it depends what works for you.
So when, especially like if I'm a seller or buyer, is there any specific thing people usually ask for? Like it's in demand. Doesn't matter. They need to have that. They need to have it.
A big thing I see in this area, some people like the way a certain house is facing, which I think makes completely sense. My house personally faces south, and my snow never melts in my driveway. Versus my neighbor across the street, his melts instantly. That's stuff that a lot of people forget. Or it could be
That's
some
a
sort of
good
religious
thing.
reason, but that's a common thing, here because it's in demand. But in other areas, it might not be in demand. But that's one big thing that sticks out in my mind. Anytime it's usually families are shopping for homes, so they want a quieter street for their kids to be raised on. Sidewalks, near power lines, that's a big thing that people don't want to be near usually.
Correct.
Or if you're in a development, that's very sought after.
Correct. Also, there's a thing, right? There's a lot of family who has kids, so they want to buy a house with a swimming pool, which eventually end up paying more taxes towards property. Is that correct?
Potentially, I would confirm with your township or tax attorney. But for the most part, it's an improvement on the land. And if it is an improvement, it would be taxed as such through the township. But in regards to pools, it's what your preference is. Pools, they bring value to someone who shows or sees that they're valuable.
Correct. So, what do you think? What if I'm selling my house? What is the small upgrades I can make to get the more value on the house back?
I say change all the doorknobs, paint the doors, paint the house, recess lighting. If your kitchen is functional but dated, paint the cabinets, black hardware, new countertops.
Countertops.
maybe
Usually,
appliances.
countertops the current demand, I would say, in the market because people whoever is buying the house, they always want to have a countertop.
Right,
In
like
the kitchen.
yes. At the end of the day, cabinets they're beautiful, but they all function the same. They just look different. It's a box and a door. So if you can upgrade them, do so. You're gonna get quality. You're gonna get more price for your house because it's newer and renovated. But you don't have to go total kitchen gut. If you do countertops, faucets, appliances, lighting, maybe change the flooring if it's old. But if it's intact, I would just leave it and paint and brighten up and declutter. It goes a long way.
Right. So as a buyer, what do you suggest that what is the top 3 things which buyer should make sure before buying the house?
Get a quality realtor that you trust, has good reviews, and has multiple references from people if you know, that's even better, but people you ask and they say they're good. Definitely have a good lender, someone that's connected and they could get affiliated with your realtor because you should be pre-approved before shopping so you know, or at least if you have the proof of funds, show that to your realtor so that everything's on the table because a realtor might have an idea that you might not think of if you don't give him that information. So we're, like I said, quarterbacks and problem solvers. Same thing with lenders. There's different scenarios that work for different people, and we want to do whatever we can to benefit the client the most. Third thing, I would say, just try to take it step at a time and ask questions. Because if you don't ask questions, me as a realtor, I might give the information to you, but you might not be able to digest it the way I'm giving it to you. So you need to dictate that to your realtor or any professional you're talking to lean on to buy a house. At the end of the day, buying a house, not everyone does it, but everyone that does, it's probably their most important purchase, and it's nerve-wracking. There's a lot of zeros in that number, and it's bothersome for people. So as long as you could be, calm down a little bit and just understand that this process is going to work in your favor,
Correct.
you could feel better for sure.
Also, as per current scenario in the market, what would you suggest that buying a land and building a property on, like building a house on top of that would be much cheaper? So, I mean, that way also I can just have my dream as per that I can just have my house as per I want or just get the house which is already ready in the market.
Right. Definitely, it depends, again, what your situation is. If you're getting kicked out of your property, landlord's selling it, or they're knocking it down and you have to move, probably not ideal because the timeline's going to be longer.
Of course.
The timeline includes identifying a lot, buying a lot, usually cash because banks won't loan on empty land. And then you have to go through due diligence, make sure the township will allow you to build. If you don't have sewer, electric, plumbing, or gas run, you got to run that. That's probably 50 to 100K off the rip. Do you have trees on the lot? You got to clear them.
Yeah.
And you got to hire all these people. If you never built a house, you look to a contractor that subs it out. If one of his guys are not there, they can't work, the process gets delayed. A year goes by very quick.
And also you need to get an approval from the township to get all these work done.
Everything. And it has to coincide. If they make a mistake, are they going to pay for the extra lumber to redo it? Who knows? Like, yes, they should, but sometimes that's not how it works out.
Correct.
So time, money, and it's usually can go over budget. And then you have to have the town approve. Let's say you need a variance and then you don't get it. Then what do? You got to call the architect, build a new plan. And that's just, you go to the township, ask for a variance, you pay all this money and they say no. Okay.
Your money is just
10,
gone.
20 grand.
It's just going into water.
It was a try. Yeah.
Correct.
So if you're not experienced, I say try to get something existing, maybe add an addition and do it that way. That way you know the process of hiring contractors, doing that, or even just do like a bathroom renovation. Start small and work your way up. But for first-time buyer, unless you have someone that's done it, that you trust, or you've done it before, I recommend buying something pre-existing or already built. That way there's less hoops to jump through. Because that process is going to take a month to 3 months regardless just to buy.
Right. Let's take an example. With all this experience, I know what I'm doing, and if I were gonna construct the house from scratch, so what should the priorities I should keep in my mind?
Nowadays, people like to see huge master bedrooms, closet space, attic if you could have it, and a basement. Higher the ceilings, the better. 9, 10-foot ceilings, you just added a lot of value to your property. Because people come in, they'll never say, oh, this ceiling's too high. But I've had clients come in with a regular 8-foot ceiling and they say it's too low.
It's too low.
When in reality, that's standard, but they want 9 to 10 foot. And, usually those properties are going to be $1 million, $2 million. If I'm paying $1 million or $2 million, I want what I want. And that's
Right.
why I'm going to wait or build something new.
Of course. So how would you describe the entire buying process? Like how long it takes to someone who's buying the house from the scratch?
So basically, take about average 3 to 4 months, considering if you have a loan, if you have to get a loan. If you have cash, it could be a little bit faster. You could close in 2 weeks, but you'd probably be more of an experienced buyer at that point. So you identify, try to book a tour of the property, but find a realtor first that you know and trust. That's the first thing to do. Interview them, talk to them, go on Zillow, go on Google, ask your friends or family, find a realtor. They should advise you to meet in person, see if it's a good connection, and then get pre-approved. That's the first step. So you know if you're getting a mortgage, what you can afford monthly, what your down payment is. Can you buy now? Can you not buy now? There's multiple situations that you want to know if you can buy or not.
Right. So the pre-approval is the first process.
Definitely first step. And then, browse properties. If you don't want to go out with an agent right away and you're skeptical, go to open houses. They're free to the public. Go there, talk to the agents that are listing the property, see if they're a good fit if you don't know anybody. Just shop around, get recommendations.
Correct. Just to go to open houses, you don't need a realtor. You can just walk in.
Yes. Usually advertise on Zillow, Trulia. They'll advertise open house Sunday 1 to 3. Show up, give them your info for security purposes, and they'll walk you through the home and see if you have a good interaction.
Correct.
And then from there, once you find a realtor, they're going to start sending you properties. You're going to be browsing because you're excited. Then you start touring homes. Average client now between 8 and 12 homes, and they're making a decision. It doesn't seem like a lot, but let's say you only could go out on the weekends.
Right.
You see max 5 homes a time. Mostly that's not the case because it's limited inventory, so it's 2 to 3. So 2 to 3, you have 12 homes. That's 4 weekends. That's a month already gone by. So 1 to 2 months to identify a property, and then 1 to 2 months to close. The 1 to 2 months to close is something that usually doesn't vary, but the time to find a property can if you're a quick decision maker or you find something that works for you. So at that point, find a property, you submit an offer. You're going to discuss with your realtor. He's going to recommend what you should offer based on conversations and what the market is, comparable sales. I want to show you what the value is on the home compared to what the market value is of what someone's willing to pay. So when you submit an offer, let's say you get accepted. That's amazing, but you're not done yet. So you get accepted. That's not binding yet. The seller can take another offer or you could back out at any time for no reason at all. And then once your offer is accepted, you go into what's called attorney review, also not binding. Your attorney, the seller's attorney, will discuss if you have an attorney. Usually in South Jersey, they don't do this, but I always recommend an attorney to know your laws and what you can and can't do. So they'll talk, make sure everything's okay, collaborate with their clients on each side and say, okay, sign off, attorney review concluded. Now we're under contract. From that point, deposits are due before the inspection and appraisal. So you give your deposit in, it's held in an escrow account. It's a non-interest bearing account held by either the buyer's or seller's attorney. And that's just money, a portion of the down payment up front to show you have skin in the game and you really want the house. So that's given. The inspection's booked usually first week or second week after going under contract. You'll have the inspection. Appraisal is booked from the lender. Again, that's all coordinated by your buying and or selling agent. And then as the process of the mortgage is going and the buying process is kind of like parallel. So you'll have the appraisal going, all that, mortgage commitment in the background while you're having the inspection, wait for the report. give your inspection request with your buyer's agent, send them over, start due diligence on that between the attorneys, see what's liable and what's reasonable, what's not reasonable based on the contract.
Correct.
And then come to an agreement. Maybe seller wants to give credit, maybe they want to repair, maybe they want to do nothing, or vice versa.
Right.
And then from there, have the appraisal. Hopefully the appraisal comes back good, meaning that you get the value, or however the contract was written, you give extra money to make the deal work. And then from there, you get the clear to close from the lender, which is very exciting. You get the mortgage commitment. You get your final numbers. And then usually on the day of closing, you'll have your walkthrough. And then you head to the attorney's office or title office, and then you get the keys. And then it's yours, and you get to move in.
Right. So we are done with the buyer side, but what about the seller side? Is that how long the process is from the seller side to sell the house?
Selling side, it's very parallel again with the buying process. So timeline's pretty similar. From start to finish, you would interview agents. Usually if you're selling a home, realtors want that. So you might have people already knocking on your door, sending you flyers. You might know somebody, so you call interview agents, see who's the best fit for you, market the property, get it listed, sign agreements, market the property, have showings, have open houses, do whatever the listing agent has to do to market the property and get buyers in there.
Correct.
So you get an offer or multiple offers, you decide which one's the best, you pick that offer, let them know they're accepted, go through attorney review, and then same process from there. The only difference is you're not participating in the inspection or appraisal process. You just have to give them access. One thing that's different as a seller is usually in New Jersey, because it's by law, the seller gets the CO unless otherwise described. So buyer can say, hey, we'll get the C of O for you, no problem. That's something that has happened before. So that's the only difference. And then if there's any violations in there, or a fire and smoke cert where you get smoke detectors and fire extinguisher checked, then that gets addressed prior to closing. And then again, the inspection contingencies, they get negotiated. That's where you have an answer as a seller. But that's all going on at the same time as the buyer's process of inspection, appraisal, and both sides are talking to each other. One thing I want to iterate though, even though we're buyers and sellers, everyone has a common goal. It's not buyers against the sellers or vice versa. Everyone wants to close on the home.
Correct.
So that's another thing I advise my clients when selling or buying. Definitely want to have that mindset, because it's a much more positive transaction, and you think differently when you're not frustrated or angry or quick thought because you might have something going on.
So as per current scenario in the market, what would you suggest? The buying a property right now in the market is a good option, or people usually do prefer to rent the property and just stay in it. So what would you suggest as per the market scenario?
Like I mentioned prior, it's all based on your situation. So that's, again, where it comes to having a good realtor, a good lender, to give them all the facts, and they have experience with all walks of life, all different transactions. They might say, hey, continue to save up money, or hey, your credit's not the best. Here's a credit repair, or do this, we'll get your credit up. At least you'll have a plan. So it depends what your situation is. If you have the down payment, I say go shopping, get pre-approved, go shopping, get a realtor, and start the process. The market, I really don't think is going to change anytime soon because inventory is low. Unless something changes where the inventory changes, that's where it could differ, but the price is what it is. Rent continues to go up. Correct. So your rent's not going to come down. Your mortgage can come down.
It's going up crazy.
Yes,
nowadays.
And the mortgage can come down. You could refinance. You could pay it off. You own something at the end of the day. When you rent, you're paying to have shelter versus a home. It's an investment. It's equity. As per Brian Buffini on It's a Good Life podcast, he mentioned homeowners are 40% wealthier than non-homeowners. And that's just buying a home, which is like a lot of people do it. It's not rocket science.
That's a decent amount of number.
Absolutely.
40%.
Absolutely. Because when you rent, you're not paying towards anything. Unless your situation, again, if you're a business owner and you have investment properties and you don't want to take care of a house, by all means rent, because something's paying for it yourself. But most people, they have one house they live in, and that's what they do. At least they have something to lean on, something tangible.
Correct. Also, how important part does the credit report perform while you're buying the house?
In America, it's very important to the process because that's how they will say, first of all, yes or no, we could loan you money. Second of all, what your interest rate's going to be. Definitely confirm all this with a lender, but from my conversations with lenders, that's usually the biggest things. How much it's going to cost and if you can even get this.
So what do you think, as per doing this from so long time, what credit score would you suggest to have at least before they start looking for the house?
If you're going FHA, I believe it's in the high fives or low sixes, but again, confirm with your lender. But usually anything 700 or above, it's pretty
It's
synonymous.
always like good to go.
Yes.
It's always a green light.
Yes. And as a realtor, if you ask a client, say, hey, what's your credit score? And they openly give it to you, it's good.
Sometimes
if
they
they don't
get
want to tell
offended.
you, if they don't want to tell
Yeah.
you, you could guess it's probably not up to speed.
Understood.
But that's where the lender comes in pre-approval. It's going to get figured out anyway.
Understood. Also, so being a realtor, when you make a sell or when you make people buy a house, how do you make money?
So when a sale goes through, normally it depends. Now, since this past August, there's buyer agreements. So those have always been in play. They just haven't been used in the state of New Jersey. Other states have been honoring them, before this. But that's good you asked because I want to touch upon this. So that case, what it was basically is, in my case, I never did anything wrong, and a lot of agents I talked to never did, because when we go to present a listing presentation, obviously there's a fee, a marketing fee. So I would say, hey, Mr. Seller, I charge 3% to market your home, and this is why. What you want to give out to the buying side's up to you. You could give them 0, you could give them more, but I advise based on these listings here, and I show them that have closed. This may be closed at asking price, this closed under, and this closed over. This was given out 3%, this was given out 2.5%, this was given out 2%. There's clearly a correlation between that. So based on this, it would be in your best interest to give out a commission, but you don't have to. And at that point, usually, you want the funnel of buyers coming to your house bigger. In that agreement, you can actually check off, don't show me homes that don't offer compensation. So as we get paid, the deal needs to close. And if it's in the contract by the seller would pay the full commission. And if it's total 5%, let's say 2.5% to the seller's agent, 2.5% to the buying agent is usually how it gets paid. And there could be deductions in there too, depending on what happens.
Understood. And it also deduct the tax and all this other stuff too.
As a realtor, I'm glad you mentioned that too. As a realtor, you should deduct for taxes. You should have, there's also splits with your brokerage. So there's a gross and there's always a net.
Right.
And that's where it comes in. Also, if you're listing, you have marketing fees. You got to pay for photos. You got to pay for marketing. You might have to have other people cover your showings. It's
So that everything goes out of the
the gross commission, right?
Out of the gross
So
commission.
you get the gross, let's say 2.5, and then you have such and such for this, such and such for that, such and such for that. If you're a business owner, other business owners, I was taught you get a napkin, you rip off the little corner of the napkin, that's what you're left with.
That's what you're left with.
Right. But again, I'm in it to help people. And if you're in something to help people, that's when you're going to thrive.
Right. So usually how you touch base with your client?
Normally I would try to, I'm big on texting. I like things in writing. It's easy to reference. It's a check-in. It's a friendly check-in. It's not like call, answer, call me back. So if it's something that we're doing a deal, phone calls are the best way to get something across. You could feel emotion and you could feel like, transparency in the conversation versus text could be misconstrued. Taken that way. I like to send out this past year and the year before, I hand delivered cookies to all my close clients of past and present. So I like to do that, stay in touch, do pop-bys. I have an ice cream event I'm having June 17th from 6:30 to 7:30 at our
So you are
office
just
in
having an
Scottsdale.
ice cream event just for the clients who can just come there, who, like for especially anyone specific, like who is looking to buy the house or who is looking to sell the house, or it's just for open to everyone?
Yeah, anyone that I've worked with, people in my network,
okay.
everyone gets the invite. I like to have everyone come. They could, network, collaborate, just to say, I'm still here. I'm still here to help you. Anyone I would love to help them too.
When is it though?
June 17th, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. at East Brunswick office of Remax First. It's at 33 Brunswick Woods Drive.
Also, like if you want to give the advice to someone who is totally attached to their house and they wants to sell it, but they are, because of the reason they are just so attached, they cannot sell it. So what advice would you give to them?
Emotional attachment is hard sometimes, especially if, like, let's say was a married couple, they lived in a house, they bought it together, one passed later in life, and you don't want to sell it. Again, it depends what your situation is. If you're going to be homeless because you don't sell it, because let's say you're being foreclosed on, is that in your best interest? You might be at a point in your life where you don't care, but there's people in your life that do care, so they'll probably advise you to sell. But again, it's all situational. If you're going to lose your house by keeping it, it doesn't make sense to keep it. So I would sell it. Or there's also ways you could take a home equity line of credit and go buy something else and then sell it later. Or if you had the money and the resources, you could make exactly the same home somewhere else if you wanted to.
Right.
I know that seems extreme, but that is possible. But my best advice is, what are you losing by keeping the house? And see what they're, how they feel. If what you're losing is worse than what you're gaining by selling, it's a no-brainer.
Correct. Yep. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, Livio. Thank you for sharing all this insight about the buying and selling the house or any other properties. Definitely, we are looking forward to it. And definitely, if you guys are planning to buy a house or sell the house, definitely contact Livio. He's happy to help you guys. He's from the Remax First Realty, and we'll be always happy to help you guys. Thank you.
Yes. I would also like to mention you can follow me on Instagram at Livio the Realtor. Text me at 908-616-7752 or call me. I love the network I have, and I give that to my clients when they come aboard in our family. So you come in as clients, but you try to make you leave as friends and family so we could stay in touch for years to come. Thank you.
And also don't forget to like us, subscribe, and press the bell icon so you get updates.